My name is Scott Whigham. Thank you for joining us today. I am the CEO of Function AI, and today we're going to focus on business requirements driving the development process. First, we're going to go through an introduction of business-driven business requirements, and then take a look at the cost of business requirements and analysis, both doing it well as not doing it so well. Then we're going to move into business requirements modeling process, where we'll discuss the continuation of doing it the right way, what that means to your organization, where these business requirements drop in for you. And then we'll move over to use case modeling and discuss how the business requirements modeling process will add to the use case modeling that leads to design, to build, to deployment, and to monitoring and testing. Then we'll move over to a service modeling of a service-oriented architecture, in which the organization is moving to a very mature process of pre-modeling of your business requirements, of your business processes, and having those available so that you can move towards providing services to the business, and as their business requirements change, that you can change or adapt the services that IT is providing to the business. And finally, we'll finish with unlocking development through the business analysis and talking about the impact of these steps, what the negative impacts could be and what you can do for your organization, whether it's an individual contributor as a developer, whether it's a manager of developers, a leader of IT, how you can drive your organization from any one of these elements, locations as a role player, to improve your overall IT operations, the delivery of product, and really the efficiency of your organization, your team, and you as an individual contributor. So first, let's talk about business-driven development. This is where the business and the tech teams are working closely together to define and to specify the code and then deliver the software that exactly meets the needs of the business. What we are going to talk about through this is where the business analyst resides within the organization, what they contribute to the organization, and what they contribute to the development process. What we do know is in a mature organization that is established, as you see in the business analyst hierarchy, where you have inputs, business SMEs, working with the business analysts, working with architecture, working with senior leads, and working with product management, and working with the development teams. In those mature organizations with well-defined processes, they have a 66% success rate in implementation, strategy implementation, versus organizations who are less mature that don't follow this process. Organizational agility, meaning the ability of an organization to adapt to new projects, to new services quickly and with a high rate of success, is 40% in a mature organization versus 14% in a non-mature organization. And then, of course, management of individual projects, having those successfully completed, and that definition becomes on budget, on time, with meeting the business requirements, getting acceptance from the business side. You see in a mature organization a 62% success rate versus 29% success rate. The cost of business requirements analysis, we wanted to discuss what the impact of doing it poorly would mean. And certainly, business requirements are ultimately what the blueprint is for the IT project success. And when a company doesn't do a mature level process of the business requirements, does not follow these procedures, and is sort of a loose conglomeration where we sit down and we sit with the stakeholder and get an idea of some of their inputs, but don't map these out. And we'll show some maps later on, but don't map these out. Don't document them well. Don't walk through what those business requirements mean. The stakeholders involved are lower level than the leadership, the strategy, the people that determine the strategy of the business, who the main stakeholders are. What we see is companies pay a premium of 60% on the time and the budget of the project itself when they're not leveraging the best practices that we'll just touch on here in the presentation. After that, what we see is 41% of the IT development budget goes towards non-value add portions of the project. This could be redoing the business requirements after the initial stages, after you get into development, which is the cost increase exponentially once you get into the development process and you're not and you don't have high quality business requirements executed on to lead the development team. You see 41% of your budget starts going towards trying to redo those business requirements, try to eliminate bugs that are generated from poor business requirements. So in the business requirement modeling process, this is the phase where senior figures of the business alongside the business analysts and the technical advisors, your senior developers who are going to come in and help do the scope, provide feedback to the senior leaders on what is feasible and what is not. At this time in the conversation and with the main stakeholders, with senior leaders, with the people that are driving the need because they've identified as a part of their business, this is what they need from the IT organization. This is the best time to sit down with them and go through that official, very formalized business process mapping in which we're hearing what the business leaders need, and we're starting to put it down into swim lanes, steps, what are the different component pieces. And this ultimately is going to lead us to the outputs where we can model this into the use cases that allow us to do the design, to the data design, the infrastructure design, and ultimately the functionality design that the code developers, the coders are going to flesh out for their teams to scope that, get it into stories, and start producing code, bringing it to prototype, and ultimately into testing, and then finally into production. Following this and having this conversation with the senior leaders and having them handhold that, the business analyst can help drive success within your project. And what we see is 80% of projects are successful with these mature requirements processes. But what does it mean to have those mature requirement processes, documenting those? One of the key elements that we found in business requirements, identifying mature processes, is an auditing of the business requirements and auditing 3 specific characteristics of the business requirements documentation. There is no specific one for your organization, no specific 3 for your organization, but what it really reflects and what the study really reflects is sitting down and doing that audit for your particular processes so that there's a feedback loop, not only to the business analyst, but from the development team to the business analyst back to the business itself to say, this is what we're looking for specifically. We did not do it within this project. We need to go back and do that again before we stop the development process. So the question becomes is, what do you have in your organization that allows you to audit 3 specific areas within your business requirements gathering? Is it the documentation itself? Is it the quality of the documentation, meaning that, hey, we answered scope, we answered business need, we answered the financial inputs as well, and we answered what were the different component pieces within the IT model that are going to contribute to that. Once we have a good practice of auditing that to ensure the complete nature of those characteristics that should be present within the business requirements documentation, this leads you to a higher probability of success for your project, and certainly it helps drive your development process by having good inputs that allow your development team to move forward without having to have steps back. It's the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. If you are auditing on a consistent basis and driving your organization to make sure that you're not inputting garbage at the beginning, you're going to see a higher rate of success for your development processes. It can move forward smoothly and develop a product line that reduces the number of bugs that may exist in your software from the very beginning. After you've done the business requirements gathering and you've done the business process modeling, you're going to go to the use case modeling. And this is, we know in the business process modeling, this is how a data may go from from the end user inputs through the GUI into being processed internally with what other changes to the data that take place, to the data storage, to the outputs, the responses, the executions on task, and then applying that to specific real world situations in which you do use case modeling. Up on our screen that we have right now, we have aspect modeling to the left-hand side, and then we have other use case diagram types such as structural diagrams, behavioral diagrams, that you can see where these component pieces meet together. The key point that we want to take with this is there are a lot of options that are available to you. Understanding business rules, core functionalities, the use cases, how they fit together and how they would flow based on structural capability, based on behavioral expectations, but keeping those simple so that in your use cases, if you have a level of complexity that you've introduced, then you need to take a step back and say, maybe we should simplify this more so that we are standardized in what we do, and that we have an ability to attack this in the development phase from a level of complexity that we can break down into core components that allow us to deliver, whether you're in the agile, the waterfall process, DevOps, but keeping the component pieces and what you're trying to accomplish to small, easy pieces that fit in the overall architecture. Ultimately, as your organization begins to mature, we want to take a look at the service modeling that mature organizations are moving to. When you have a service-oriented architecture, and we're not going to dive too deeply into here what that is, but the essence of the SOA is to have a service portfolio. What does your organization, what does the IT organization provide to the business to meet business needs that you can standardize so that on a long-term basis, you can start providing multiple higher level business processes that allow you to repeat, to provide a portfolio to business stakeholders who may come in and say, I would like to do this, and you may already be providing that, or you know that with a combination of business services that you already offer, that you can offer a new business service that they're looking for and introduce them to. Having this documented and standardized from a top-down analysis that you do on a continuous basis, that you're not waiting for a project to come in to execute on this, but that you have this high-level look, that you have the analysis of your legacy systems and applications already in place, ready to go, and that creation of an initial service model from the candidate list is available to that. So someone can come in and select from the services to create an entirely new service, and that you clearly articulate these service descriptions, their capabilities, the quality of service that is provided through your IT services, and a mapping of this to the business goals. And this becomes a two-way street of communication between yourself and the business so that you understand the business goals and that you're tying in the business services, the IT services, the SOA back to what the business is trying to accomplish. All these items combined will help you unlock your development. This allows you to have a very flexible development team that has some preset go-to plays, if you will, that they can execute on quickly. A catalog of the services available to your business, easily accessible, and allows the organization to understand what your capabilities are so that they can start framing what is important to them, and that this is a living document that changes over time as you add more capabilities. This feeds directly into whether it's your agile process, your waterfall, your DevOps, but the requirements feed into your design, into your development, into your testing, into deploy and review, and allow you to hold your business analyst to a higher standard, and allows you to drive your development, lower costs by not repeating work, by freeing up your developers from a continuous rehash of the business requirements, a rebuild of the code that they've already developed, which if they developed it off of bad requirements, now they're having to go back and redo that. These are all the keys that will help you unlock your development process, provide value to the business of flexibility, capability, at a cost that is sustainable over a long period of time. I appreciate you dropping in to visit us to go through these easy steps for unlocking your development process through your business analysts, and I look forward to taking questions. Thank you.